finds a way. This saying is ingrained in our culture and society, yet rarely do we take pause to appreciate and marvel at just how true it is. Be it the blistering heat of underwater volcanoes or the freezing winds of the icy tundras, life is ever present. The unflinching, unstoppable desire to live and to exist drives many creatures to drastic, impressive measures in order to brave the harshest environments known to man. This remains true even for an ecosystem fueled by the antithesis of life, death. Even in the putrid depths of the dead waste, life springs forth, a paradoxical turn in nature's story. And some creatures strive in environments like these and develop into fantastical testaments of life's tenacity. The world we inhabit is a place defined by variety. Every corner of our planet is a unique ecosystem that may seem similar to others at first, but presents its own fascinating challenges for its inhabitants. No matter where we look, we are witnessing millions of years of tenacity and ambition in action, as every organism puts their every fiber to work in order to survive, to overcome, to adapt, and to procreate. While it may sometimes be invisible and difficult to see, other times the environments and its respective inhabitants are paradoxical and surprising. An ecosystem like the rotten vale of the New World, a graveyard of death and decay, would not seem like a harbor for much life. And yet, some survive and even excel in this harsh and deadly environment. Such is the case with the Crimson Emperor of the Vale, the dogged predator of blood and death. The Odogaron. Dubbed the Cruel Claw Wyvern in the native tongue, the Odogaron is an imposing carnivorous beast. Crimson scales and beady blue eyes, this monster is an apex predator with few equals. Like many others of the fanged wyvern classification, its quadrupedal body structure emphasizes its strong front legs and deadly maw. However, the Odogaron also boasts some canine features, most notably its howl, and perhaps more crucially, its senses. Its eyes are weak and underdeveloped, so much so that it has long since lost any eyelids it might have had. But this doesn't hinder the beast, as it more than makes up for it with its sense of smell, which is accurate enough to pinpoint the location of its prey at all times. Research has suggested that this sense of smell developed as an adaptation to the rotten vale, as its nose had to become potent enough to sniff out potential food in a heap of decaying odor. The most striking features of the Odogaron, however, are its claws. This monster possesses 2 sets of them, 4 base claws and 6 true claws on each paw. The 4 base claws are always visible and are used like any other foot would for transportation and sneaking. The 6 true claws, however, are retractable and fold over the base claws when active. They serve a very specific purpose. They leave large, deep, jagged gashes in any prey, causing severe bleeding. With an average length of 12 meters, it may be among the smaller inhabitants of the Rotten Vale. However, the Odogaron is not to be underestimated. While some monsters evolved outlandish, bizarre traits to survive and compete, this predator has evolved a frighteningly simple ability: speed. When engaging its prey or any adversary, the Odogaron will dart around at enormous velocity, jumping between walls and closing distances to a target in minuscule intervals. But even more dangerous is the beast's fast reaction time, being able to respond and react to attacks almost immediately. This consistent speed can be traced back to the Odogaron's neural network. In the body of most large creatures, signals from and to the brain are transported through nerves. The signal takes 2 forms. Inside a nerve cell or neuron, it travels as an electric pulse. Once it reaches the end of a neuron, it usually also reaches a connection to the next neuron, called the synapse. Because two neurons don't actually touch each other, the electric signal can't jump between them as is. So, once the electric pulse reaches the synapse, it triggers the release of neurotransmitters, which are a chemical signal. They are released out of the neuron into the intercellular space, where they swim around until they dock at the other neuron, triggering a continuation of the electric signal. This is roughly how a nerve works for most creatures, humans included. But how does this relate to speed? Well, the speed of a signal determines how fast we can perform certain actions and react to stimuli. Usually, the speed of nerves is limited by two things. Firstly, the synapse's speed at releasing and absorbing neurotransmitters. But, more importantly, it's limited by the physics of electricity itself. Electricity will always take the road of least resistance. Therefore, it will go anywhere it can without being impeded. So let's say that in this neuron, an electrical signal is traveling. But how does it know in which direction to go? If the neuron is equally conductive everywhere, which it has to be in order for signals to travel through completely, what's stopping a signal from going backwards or in both directions? Well, you can divide a neuron into points, which a signal passes through on its way. Every time a point is passed by a signal, it closes the gate, so to speak, becoming unconductive for a certain amount of time. This is called the refractory period. Thanks to this, an electric pulse can only move forward through a nerve, as any point it has passed closes down and doesn't let it through again. But this raises another issue. If points that have been passed are closed, how will the next signal pass through? For that to happen, the points have to open up again pretty quickly. This means there is an inherent hard limit on how many signals our nerves can send, depending on how long that refractory period is before the points open again. In humans, the shortest refractory period possible is 2 milliseconds. This means that, at most, we humans can fire 500 signals through a nerve per second. This may sound impressive, but it is estimated that the Odogaron's refractory time is shorter, allowing it to fire at least twice as much. How that is chemically possible isn't yet understood. Additionally, it's assumed that the synapses of the Odogaron are more generous when determining which neurotransmitters to absorb, quickening that process as well. With its overwhelming speed, the Odogaron is already a force to be reckoned with. And thanks to its serrated claws, it can cause severe bleeding that will drain any opponent of their life force. But the true danger of this monster is its tenacity. Thanks to its nose, it can keep track of its prey with remarkable accuracy, which only increases if the target is bleeding. And once it has a target, it will fight and hunt mercilessly, as it is a cruel and cold beast. It will even sometimes go as far as to climb out of the whale and into the coral highlands to hunt and continue fighting. However, it is not easy to maintain its position of apex predator. So, should all of its arsenal fail, the Odogaron still has one trick that will allow it to overcome most opponents. As carnivores, Odogaron obviously eat meat. However, they engage in some odd behavior. Often, one can observe an Odogaron carrying a corpse or a chunk of flesh back to its lair, instead of eating it right away. Were one to follow it into the lair, one would find that Odogaron hoard most of the meat they find. This behavior seems senseless until one watches what happens when one of them becomes desperate. Should a situation become too much to handle for an Odogaron, it will try to return to its lair or otherwise find access to meat. Once it devours it, it can, seemingly at will, accelerate its metabolism many-fold, causing its body to go into overdrive. In this state, its body begins to glow in a hot red and steam starts spraying out of its mouth. During overdrive, all of the Odogaron's physical capabilities are enhanced greatly. Additionally, it is then able to use its true claws more quickly and more accurately, causing it to be much more frequent and aggressive with its bleed-causing swipes. However, this overdrive mode is a last resort for a good reason. It cannot be maintained for long. In fact, it is essentially a sprint, relying on frenzied desperation and mere ounces of energy to run. If the monster is somehow forced to stop moving, by a trap for example, it will likely not be able to get back into the fight easily, instead tiring out and remaining lethargic and slow for a period of time. Additionally, while the uniquely responsive composition of its neural system makes it dangerous, it's also presenting its greatest weakness. Since its synapses are eager to absorb the neurotransmitters, it's easy for them to absorb any other compounds grouped in with them, which, for example, includes paralyzing neurotoxins. And sure enough, the co-inhabitant fanged wyverns of the Vale, the Gyros, have developed exactly such a toxin to fight off Odogaron, who remains twitching and immobilized when exposed to it. However, the Odogaron is itself also capable of adaptation. During the Legiana migration, which saw large shifts in the population of the New World, a certain number of Odogaron migrated permanently to the Coral Highlands. However, in order to survive and compete efficiently in the newly changed Highlands, which were now occupied by elder dragons and fierce predators alike, these Odogaron had to change, and so they evolved into the so far only known subspecies of Odogaron, the Ebony Odogaron. Covered in black and blue scales, this cousin of the main branch is both stronger and more aggressive than the regular Odogaron. These are likely traits that they developed in order to fight fiercer opponents. They also have a different lifestyle. While a regular Odogaron will usually stick to the Rotten Vale, with occasional trips to the Coral Highlands, the Ebony Odogaron is a nomad and can appear all over the New World. And thanks to its new abilities, it is a tremendous force no matter where it's encountered. Through some mutation, the Ebony Odogaron is able to tap into dragon energy, similar to the Deviljho. It is unclear how exactly it does that, but there is an interesting observation to be made. While its body overflows with dragon energy, spewing out of its mouth and skin, the Ebony Odogaron does not have the ability to manipulate it in any real way, for example being unable to use breath attacks like Deviljho. The main use for this dragon energy seems to be to enhance its physical abilities. But nature is cunning and creative, and so the Ebony Odogaron found a way to circumvent its own innate lack of dragon control. It may not be able to breathe out the dragon energy directly, but by storing chunks of flesh in its mouth, it can infuse them with the energy. Then, if it needs to inflict dragon blight at a distance, it can simply spit said chunk out of its opponent, creating a big fleshy ball of dragon energy. All of this exemplifies nature's never-ending drive to survive. The Odogaron is only one part in an endless system that continuously strives to maintain life through any means necessary. Adaptation and evolution keep working, keep going, and as life keeps on evolving and adapting, we bear witness to the beauty and power of it all. Alright, let's go quickly on the Odogaron. Let me quickly record. Check, everything good. Alright, let's... What the
No! God, please, no! No!
Why are you running? Why are you...